very soon we will be Zoiche, we will all see the building of the third temple in Jerusalem very soon. And we honor our President Trump for what he has done for Jerusalem and for the Jewish people.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm glad I told him to do that. He did a very good job. You've done that before, Rabbi, I guess, huh? A couple of times, huh? Thank you very much. Great gentlemen, great people.
God bless you, Mr. President.
The collapse has begun. We are entering Daniel's 70th week. The world is unraveling. The ground beneath us is shaking, economies crumbling, wars raging, deception spreading like wildfire. But what if I told you, this isn't just chaos? This is prophecy being fulfilled. For centuries, believers have watched and waited for the moment when the final countdown would begin. That moment is now. Daniel's 70th week is unfolding before our very eyes. The signs are all here: global instability, moral decay, and a system being set up for the rise of the Antichrist. The time of warning is over. Now comes the time of reckoning. What does this mean for you? Are we about to witness the Great Tribulation? And most importantly, are you prepared for what's coming? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand why the world is collapsing and what you must do before it's too late. The clock is ticking, and there's no turning back. Folks, Israel is all set to welcome their Messiah, and the most important step in this process has already begun. What if I told you that biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our eyes? What if I told you that we are no longer waiting for signs? The signs have already happened. The third temple is closer than ever. The red heifers have been born, and key world leaders including Donald Trump are involved in this divine setup. In today's video, we are going to decode the mystery of Daniel's 70th week, the third temple, and how everything is leading us straight into the final countdown of human history. Get ready, because what you are about to hear will shake you to your core. Now, let's dive in. Segment 1. Understanding Daniel's 70 weeks. Before we discuss what is happening today, we need to understand what Daniel's 70th week really means. In Daniel 9:24-27, the angel Gabriel reveals a prophetic timeline of 70 weeks or 490 years to the prophet Daniel. Each week in prophecy represents 7 years, meaning the 70 weeks equal 490 years. These 490 years were divided into 7 weeks, 49 years, the rebuilding of Jerusalem after Israel's exile. 62 weeks, 434 years, the period leading up to Jesus' first coming. One final week, 7 years, the last 7-year tribulation before Christ's return. What is shocking? The first 69 weeks, 483 years have already been fulfilled, leading exactly to Jesus Christ's crucifixion. But there is one last week left, the final 7 years, that is still unfulfilled. And guess what? We are about to enter this 70th week. We are about to enter this 70th week. This is not some distant prophecy. It is happening right now, in our generation. The prophetic clock, which paused after Christ's crucifixion, is about to start ticking again. The final 7 years, known as the Great Tribulation, will be the most intense and catastrophic period in human history. It will be marked by wars, famines, plagues, deception, and a global government that will rise to power. The Bible foretells that this will be the era when the Antichrist will step onto the world stage, deceiving the nations and enforcing his rule. But here's the shocking part: before this final week can begin, a major prophetic event must take place: the rebuilding of the third temple in Jerusalem. This temple is not just a religious site. It is the very location where the Antichrist will declare himself as God and demand global worship, as foretold in 2 Thessalonians 2:4. And right now, as we speak, plans for this temple's construction are already underway. The Jewish leaders have openly declared their readiness. The red heifers have been born, the priesthood is being trained. The political support is in place. Even the former US President Donald Trump has signaled his approval. Everything is aligning at a rapid pace, faster than anyone could have imagined. This is no longer a question of if, it is a matter of when, and the fact that it is happening in our lifetime should send chills down your spine. But here's what many fail to realize. This temple will not bring peace, it will usher in global chaos. The Bible warns that Israel will enter into a deceptive peace treaty with the Antichrist, thinking he is their long-awaited Messiah. But in the middle of the 7 years, he will break that covenant, seize the temple, and unleash the most horrific persecution in human history. The mark of the beast will be introduced, forcing every person on earth to choose between allegiance to God or submission to the system of the Antichrist. And once this happens, there will be no turning back. Now, the question is, are we truly ready for what's coming? Because everything we thought was far away is now at our doorstep. Segment 2, the 70th week bacon signs we cannot ignore. How do we know that the final 7-year period is about to begin? Let's examine the shocking prophetic events happening in 2025. 5 red heifers have been born, a biblical requirement for the third temple. The third temple is about to be built. Israeli religious leaders have already confirmed plans. Donald Trump attended a Jewish event where key discussions on temple construction were held. Israel is preparing for its Messiah, but will they accept the true Messiah or a deception? But here's the most terrifying question: which Messiah are they preparing to receive? For centuries, the Jewish people have longed for their Messiah, the one who will restore Israel and bring peace to the world. But the Bible warns us of a great deception, a false Messiah, who will come in his own name and be accepted by many. John 5:43. Could it be that the world is unknowingly preparing for the rise of the Antichrist? A global leader who will unite nations, promise security, and establish his throne in the soon-to-be-built third temple. The fact that 5 red heifers have been born and are now being prepared for the ritual purification of the temple is no coincidence. This has never happened in modern history, yet suddenly, in our time, these heifers without a single blemish have appeared. According to Jewish tradition, the red heifer's ashes are required to purify the priests and the temple before sacrifices can resume. This means that once these heifers are sacrificed, the final preparations for the third temple will be complete and worship will begin again in Jerusalem, just as prophesied. And now, the most powerful political figure in the world, Donald Trump, is at the center of this movement. At a recent Jewish event, he was present as leaders openly discussed the start of temple construction. Not only that, but he gave a positive response. Let that sink in. A world leader, deeply involved in the affairs of Israel, supporting the building of the third temple, just as prophecy foretells. The question is, does Trump even realize the prophetic significance of what he is involved in, or is he unknowingly being used? Make no mistake, this is a defining moment in history. Every single piece of prophecy is aligning perfectly, and the final countdown has already begun. The world is being prepared for something massive, but the question is, are you prepared? Segment 3. The Third Temple and the Coming Deception. The Third Temple is one of the biggest prophetic markers of the end times. The Bible prophesies that the Jewish people will rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, Ezekiel 42:48, Daniel 9:27. In the middle of the final 7 years, the Antichrist will enter the temple and declare himself to be God. To Thessalonians 2:3-4. This is known as the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Jesus in Matthew 24:15. Now, here's where it gets even more shocking. Reports are confirming that the Jewish authorities are planning to start building the temple right after Passover. And former President Donald Trump has reportedly given his approval. This is huge, because the moment the temple is built, we know that the final countdown has begun. The Antichrist will soon appear. The tribulation is right at our doorstep. And once that happens, there will be no turning back. The third temple is not just a religious structure, it is the single most important prophetic marker that signals the beginning of the tribulation. The moment it is completed, we know that a covenant will be confirmed with Israel, deception will intensify, and global events will spiral toward chaos. Think about it. Why is the world suddenly so interested in the rebuilding of this temple? Why are political leaders, including Donald Trump, involved in something that, for centuries, seemed impossible? Could it be that the stage is being set for the greatest deception mankind has ever seen? Because as soon as the temple stands, the Antichrist will soon step in and claim it as his own, declaring himself to be God. This is the very event Jesus warned us about in Matthew 24:15, when he spoke of the abomination of desolation. This is not just a moment in history, this is a spiritual war unfolding before our very eyes. The world will celebrate the temple as a symbol of unity and peace, yet in reality, it will mark the beginning of humanity's darkest hour. The Antichrist will deceive many, performing false miracles and demanding worship, and those who refuse will face severe persecution. This is why the Bible warns us to be vigilant, to stay awake, and to recognize the signs before it's too late. Now, the question is, do you see it? Do you recognize that what was written thousands of years ago is happening right now? The clock is ticking. The final prophetic piece is about to be placed. We are not just watching history, we are living in the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. The world may be blind to what is coming, but you don't have to be. Are you ready? Segment 4. The red heifer's the final missing piece. For the third temple to function, Jewish law requires a perfect red heifer to be sacrificed for ritual purification. For over 2,000 years, no red heifer qualified until now. In 2022, 5 red heifers were found in Texas and transported to Israel. As of 2025, these red heifers are reaching the required age for sacrifice. This means Israel will soon be ritually pure for temple sacrifices. And remember what the Bible says in Daniel 9:27. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. This tells us that temple sacrifices will begin soon, but they will be stopped by the Antichrist. We are witnessing prophecy coming to life. And yet, most of the world remains asleep. They do not realize that what seemed like an ancient ritual, lost to time, is now being resurrected in preparation for the greatest deception in human history. For centuries, the absence of a pure red heifer prevented the Jewish people from fulfilling this key requirement, but suddenly, at this critical hour, 5 perfect heifers appear. This is no coincidence. This is divine prophecy unfolding. Think about it. Why now? Why, after more than 2,000 years, are the red heifers ready at the exact moment when the third temple is being planned? Because this is the final missing piece. Once the heifers are sacrificed, the Jewish priesthood will be purified, the temple will be consecrated, and sacrifices will resume just as the Bible foretold. But here's the terrifying part. This will not last. The Bible warns us that the Antichrist will come in the middle of the 7 years and put an end to sacrifices. This means one thing: the tribulation timeline is about to begin. The world will believe that peace has finally come. The nations will celebrate the restoration of temple worship, but it will all be a trap. Because once the Antichrist takes control, he will demand worship, turning the house of God into a throne of blasphemy. And those who refuse, they will be hunted, persecuted, and silenced. The time for speculation is over. We are not waiting for prophecy to be fulfilled. It is happening right now. The red heifers are here. The temple is being prepared. The final countdown has begun. But the question remains: are you ready for what's coming? Segment 5. The role of Donald Trump in Bible prophecy. Many believers are now asking, is Trump playing a role in biblical prophecy? Here's what we know. Trump was instrumental in recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital in 2017. He was the key player in the Abraham Accords, which many believe could lead to the covenant of Daniel 9:27. He recently attended a Jewish event where they discussed the Third Temple, and he responded positively. Could Trump be a Cyrus-like figure, paving the way for the final prophetic events? But here's where things take a dramatic turn. If Trump is paving the way for the Third Temple, is he aware of the prophetic consequences? In the Bible, King Cyrus of Persia was anointed by God to restore Jerusalem and help rebuild the Second Temple, Isaiah 40:2-28. Many have drawn parallels between Cyrus and Trump, seeing his role in moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and brokering Middle East peace deals as divinely orchestrated steps. But unlike Cyrus, who was unknowingly fulfilling God's will, Trump's involvement is unfolding in an era where deception is at its peak. The Abraham Accords, Trump's signature peace agreement, could be the very foundation for the covenant that Daniel 9:27 warns about. This prophecy speaks of a ruler who will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week 7 years, only to betray it halfway through. Could this be setting the stage for the Antichrist to rise, using Trump's political groundwork to establish a false peace before revealing his true agenda? Is Trump merely a tool in the grand prophetic timeline, or is there something deeper at play? What's even more astonishing is his recent attendance at a Jewish event where discussions about the Third Temple took place. And his response: positive. This means that a former U.S. president, arguably the most powerful political figure on earth, has now aligned himself with one of the most controversial and prophetic moves in history. If the Third Temple begins construction under Trump's influence, the clock to the tribulation will start ticking at an alarming pace. This is no longer a political issue. This is biblical. Whether he realizes it or not, Trump is walking the path of prophecy, setting the stage for events that will shake the world. And if history has taught us anything, when God's timeline begins to move, there is no stopping it. So, the real question is, where does this all lead? And more importantly, are you spiritually prepared for what comes next? Segment 6. What comes next? If the Third Temple is built after Passover, we can expect the following major events. 1. A peace covenant. The Antichrist will make a 7-year peace deal with Israel, Daniel 9:27. To the Antichrist's rise, a powerful world leader will deceive many and demand worship. 3. The abomination of desolation. The Antichrist will enter the temple and claim to be God, to Thessalonians 2:4. For the Great Tribulation, the second half of the 7 years will be a time of unparalleled suffering. 5. The second coming of Christ. Jesus will return to destroy the Antichrist and establish his kingdom. But here's the most terrifying part: everything is accelerating at an unprecedented pace. The groundwork for the third temple is already being laid, and once it begins, the prophetic dominoes will fall one by one. If Daniel 9:27 is about to be fulfilled, then the world is on the edge of entering the most chaotic, deceptive, and dangerous era in human history, the tribulation. The peace covenant will likely be presented as a diplomatic breakthrough, a seemingly perfect solution to Middle Eastern tensions. But according to prophecy, it will be a snare. The Antichrist, who will appear as a charismatic, world-saving leader, will use this covenant to establish his global power. The world will be deceived, celebrating a false peace while the enemy tightens his grip on humanity. This is not just another political treaty. This is the fulfillment of a biblical warning. And then comes the most chilling event, the abomination of desolation. Imagine a moment when the world's most revered religious site, the newly built Third Temple, is desecrated by a man claiming to be God. The deception will be so strong that even some believers will be at risk of being led astray. This will be the ultimate test of faith. Those who refuse to worship him will face persecution, and those who accept his mark will seal their fate forever. But take heart, because this story doesn't end in darkness. The Bible assures us that after these days of tribulation, Jesus Christ himself will return in power and glory. The Antichrist will be destroyed, Satan's grip over the world will be broken, and God's kingdom will finally reign on earth. The question is, will you be ready? Will you recognize the signs? And most importantly, will you stand firm in faith as prophecy unfolds before our very eyes? We are at the doorstep of history's final chapter. The question is, are you ready? Because this is no longer speculation, this is happening now. 1. If you haven't given your life to Christ, now is the time. 2. If you are lukewarm in your faith, wake up. 3. If you are asleep, Jesus is coming soon. Subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video, because people need to hear this message before it's too late. Thank you for watching Waymaker, where we uncover biblical truth in these last days. Stay vigilant, stay in the Word, and may the Lord keep you in His grace and protection. Until next time, stay blessed.
This is my kingdom soul. The stars open, trumpet bouncing, nothing's true.